2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, the podcast gods have finally aligned to bring my brother from another mother, okay? And a man that is highly accomplished in the sports betting app field to you tonight. He is my brother from another mother, like I said. We went to the same school from kindergarten through 12th grade. He was a year younger than me. Me and his brother Kent were childhood best friends. He is none other than one of Four Rivers' finest, Mike Robleski. Michael, what's going on, my man?
How are you, Michael? Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
Thanks for having you. And we're here today and we're going to get Michael. You know, Mike's a very busy guy, okay? He's got kids, living up in Franklin, married. He's got many arms of the sports tech, gambling industry, pulling at him all the time. He's one of the best in the country at what he does. But this show, we're going to talk about the advantages to betting on your app, on your phone app, as opposed to going to the window and betting with with somebody at the window. And then we're gonna sneak some Super Bowl talk in with sports betting and all that other stuff. But first and foremost, Mike, like I said, we spent a lot of time together in the same neighborhood as kids, certainly. But in college, I believe you went. You didn't go to UMass. You went to, where'd you go, Mike?
To Westfield State. You
went to Westfield State. Okay, put him up a little bit. Put him up a tiny bit. So Mike goes to Westfield State. How do you get into the business that you are? And talk a little bit about, if you could, how you and DraftKings came together and met, and how this has became your life's work, if you could.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, I graduated from Westfield State with a degree in criminal justice. Like many college kids, right out of the gate, didn't really have a lot going on immediately after college. I ended up taking a few jobs, but my first real break came when I received a job at U.S. Bank Corporate Security Investigations out in Portland, Oregon. I used to live out there for a short time.
I remember, yep.
And so I got into and exposed to the world of kind of financial crime investigation on behalf of the bank. So external investigations like, fraud, check kiting, all that, bank robberies, and then internal investigations on employees and all of that activity that comes along with, working in a bank. So I did that for a few years and eventually moved back to New England, had another job with Citizens as a fraud analyst in their merchant services area. And that's where I started to learn about credit card processing and as it relates to fraud, particularly with Visa and MasterCard. So I kind of had built up a nice resume in fraud investigations, particularly as it relates to credit card activity in a digital space, right? Yep. So I started looking for a new gig. I saw an opportunity with a gaming company in 2004 called World Winner. They were a small studio out of Newton. And they were doing cash games online, Mike, as early as 1999, games of skill.
Wow.
So they were 5 years in when I started with them. They hired me to kind of build out their fraud and risk program and start kind of the foundation of just monitoring the flow of funds on and off the site, the integrity of the gameplay, things of that nature.
Let me ask you. Let me hop in here for a second too. With gambling, right? I lived in Las Vegas for 3 years. I had a lot of people, friends of mine that worked in security. Inherently, in the gambling industry, there is going to be a super need for you guys? Because there has to be somewhat of an uptick with the fraud in that, just because of the culture of gambling, the compulsiveness is it, and some of the lengths that people will go to try to, to try to get one over, right?
Yeah.
There must be a huge, there must have been a developing demand for that as a lot of the stuff went online. I can just imagine what would it be like for a company who wasn't properly prepared, for some of the scams and some of the stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it evolved over time, and it gets more and more complex over time.
Sure.
I like to describe it as kind of a whack-a-mole. If you remember that old game,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
the
yeah.
mold comes up, you whack it with the hammer, and then it comes up somewhere else, and you whack it
Yeah,
again, and on and on and on and on we go.
yeah,
So demand has definitely risen over time as sports wagering has become legalized, which is now 30 states in the U.S.
sure,
It's you have to have these controls in place just by virtue of the regulations, right? You
sure.
have to have money laundering controls. Like it's just part of the
Of course,
you
yeah,
can't get approved without it.
yeah,
And so yeah, the demand has risen over the course of time. I was with this this small studio, world winner. Eventually, we were acquired a couple of times and ended up under the Game Show Network umbrella. And Game Show Network was owned by Sony, and so what we were able to do, or partially owned by Sony, and what we were able to do is leverage those Sony titles. And so we were able to do like Wheel of Fortune for Cash, Jeopardy, Price is Right,
sure.
right? So we started building these games, and so I stayed with these guys, and these are games of skill
Yeah,
for cash. People come in, make a deposit, use that deposit to compete against other players in
sure.
contests that we would host. And so I was with them for 10 years. And towards the end of my tenure there, I met the founders. We were all Boston gaming folks, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I met the founders at DraftKings. Their product was still in beta at the time. This was probably 2013. And they were just looking for some advice on kind of how to get live in terms of like who are the right partners to deal with.
Sure.
How do we get Visa stood up, MasterCard, like how do we just get it live? They were
Yeah,
really early stage, and so they came over and met with us. We had a nice meeting, and they took advice from us from a couple of different angles. Took that back to to their offices and ran with it. And then maybe less than a year later, when they started to get traction, they reached out and wanted me to come on as the director of operations there. So I was with them from 2014 to 2019, really, really early stage.
sure.
5 years.
You were like the first 20 employees with them, weren't you?
Yeah, like 35th or 33rd or
Okay,
something like
well.
that. Yeah.
And where was that office located, Mike? Where was the laboratory that built the giant
Right.
of DraftKings? Where was that located? And what was that like?
Well, it was pretty surprising because this was really, really early stage startup. And so
Yeah,
the office was it was in downtown Crossing, overlooking the Common on Winter Street, corner
yeah,
of Winter and Tremont, I want to say. And so not kind of a rough area, right? A rough
yeah,
office. Everyone's jammed into one room.
yeah.
I had a TV tray as a desk. My laptop and my lunch wouldn't fit on the desk at the same time, so I had to choose one or the other, right? So
Yeah,
this is also a true story too, and I don't know how exactly this happened, but my first week there, um, there was something with the electrical situation in the office where if the website was running a certain way and someone used the microwave, it would throw the whole site offline. Like
yeah.
unbelievable stuff, right? Holes in the walls, like just what you would expect from an
Yeah, of
early
course,
stage,
yeah.
early stage startup.
Sure, yeah.
So we were there for a couple of years, and then we found really what was I would consider our first real legitimate professional office space, which was 125 Summer Street, right across from South Station. So we started building a headquarters there. We ended up with, we started with half a floor, which turned into a whole floor, which turned into, 3 or 4 or 5 floors full of people by the time I left. But moving there is also another interesting story because we did it ourselves. We did it with shopping carts. We were only going a couple of blocks, but we were basically pushing all of our equipment down. Anyone familiar with Summer and Winter Street? Winter Street is cobblestone, so we're pushing our stuff down the street. It's shaking all over the place, and so it was a really kind of
sounds like an organic journey there.
Yeah, it was really organic. Growing from the beginning, doing a lot of things ourselves to try to scrape by and save cash, and things just took off. I mean, I knew that product was going to go. Like there wasn't much doubt in my mind, so I was pretty comfortable making that move. And so I was with them for 5 years.
No, Mike, let me interrupt you for a second, Jake. I know you as a guy who knows a ton about sports, right? You always have been. You go to games. You're constantly. Me and you are constantly talking online or off air about this angle of sports, that angle of sports. Did the sports component, was that the reason why you went to them?
It was a major piece of it, but sure. I was also really, and still am, really big in fantasy sports at the time, right?
Sure.
And so, it was kind of a combination of both. It was a love for fantasy sports and a love for the sports in general. So
sure. And you had the vision that was going to turn into, I mean, who would have thought that that fantasy sports, which started in a couple of guys' garages, turned into a multi-billion-dollar industry. I remember at one time there was like 150 national publications available for people who wanted to learn about fantasy sports and participate and play in these leagues, and that was like 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
I mean.
So, when you look back, you step back and kind of take a look at what the landscape was at the time. I mean, 100 to 150 million people in the country were still playing, traditional fantasy sports, season-long fantasy sports. And so the market cap was huge, right? And so when these guys were going out and looking for investors, they're saying, look, this is what we can do. Here's the market cap. We feel this is going to be a successful product. And, there were plenty of investors willing to step forward and help out. So that certainly was a good outcome.
Now, would they bring you into high-level pitches with like ESPN? And did they have to provide that security component in their pitch when they're going after money or going after investors and stuff like that?
Yeah, for certain investors, particularly as we were growing and the investors became just larger investors. And
of course, who are doing their due diligence and being a little more careful, sure.
Yeah, definitely more due diligence with some of these more evolved investors, right? And so they would ask for some, but not necessarily in meetings with potential partnerships that I can recall, only as it related to kind of my world. So anything that had to do with, payments, Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, like those types of partnerships, absolutely. I actually ran all of those partnerships, right?
Sure.
So, and some other components, but not necessarily, hey, we're looking to do a deal with ESPN or with, what have you. And it didn't always involve my component of the company.
How much of their budget was for security and for you and your department?
As much as I needed. Really? Yeah, as much as I needed. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't, we started, I think, in my opinion, I don't think we had anticipated giving away $1 million every Sunday just about right away. Like we started it, we did it a few times. It had great success in terms of acquiring players onto the site. And then once we saw the success that we were having, what was originally kind of a let's do it here and there, maybe obviously for the Super Bowl or for a special event, became every week of the NFL season. And so when you start to when there's funds flowing in and out of the site to the volume and scope of what we had, I mean, it didn't take me much. If I needed something, I went and it was given.
Yeah. Now, was there this moment when you watch a lot of movies about techies or the Silicon Valley show that I believe was on HBO? Was there this moment where everybody is sitting around and watching and counting the login numbers as they're happening on like a Sunday or a Saturday? Was there? Well, was there one day where you say, "Holy shit! Now we're at 1 million. Now we're at 5 million. Now we're here." Yeah. So go ahead.
We were all. I mean, we obviously all had to work, and at that time, there wasn't any remote working on Sunday afternoons. Right? We had to be in the office, and so to answer your question, absolutely, and we. Of course, we had all sorts of tech set up where we could monitor user activity on the site, live activity, but we didn't expect what we got. And what I mean by that is it's such a unique product, Mike. It's unlike a lot or many products that you'll see, tech products, because when you have to have the capability and the scope and the scale to have or accommodate every single user in your community coming to your website at the same time.
Yeah, that's
so
of course.
Right. So everybody's, Tom Brady's 2007, Tom Brady's throwing touchdown passes to Gronk every 15 minutes. We used to call it the Gronk spike because every time it happened, everyone would come to the website because okay, what did that do to my score? What did that do to my opponent's score? Right. Yeah. And so we would see traffic spikes that would be unbelievable and painful. Like we got knocked off
and almost predictable, right? Like as you're halfway through it, when the big plays happen or you get a big kick return or a pick six, it's coming.
Yeah, it was like I would describe it as like a 1978 Malibu driving down the highway at 90 miles an hour. Like we were just rattling and shaking and we're like, hold on, don't crash. Yeah. We did have outages. We had a couple painful outages where we were offline for an entire NFL Sunday. What a nightmare. So we had to spend some time the following season scaling up and ensuring that we had enough tech in place to handle not only what we were experiencing the previous NFL season, but
you're growing too. Sure.
Yes. So we had to. We learned. So to answer your question, we were watching it and paying close attention to it. Yeah. But I mean, we didn't anticipate what we got. Obviously, we didn't want to be offline. It was.
Now, there must be a celebratory component to that when you're watching it, right? But there has to be like a oh fuck moment where like, are we ready for this? Right?
Yeah. These were good problems to have theoretically.
I would think so.
But they were very painful problems to deal with in the moment. If you can imagine, like, all of these users with all of this action on this site, and then this site just goes down at 1:15 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon and doesn't come back up, right?
Do you remember the date? I mean, do you remember the date and anything particular about that day?
I just remember being like, holy shit, like we've got a lot of work to do. I owned customer support as part of my purview at the time as well. And I can't even tell you like what that was like. Tens of thousands of emails. Like we weren't staffed to handle what we were experiencing. So
Do you put out a type of press release the next day? I mean, does it go to the masses? Does ESPN carry your press release? I mean, are you even there yet? Like, how do you inform everybody that you're going to be ready for next Sunday, or you're going to die trying?
Yeah, social media.
Social media? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Social media, and then, of course, we would have to. We created some pages. We created a. I can't remember exactly what we called it, but it was essentially like a website status page, where if someone was having an issue, we would, we put up a landing page and direct them to our status page, and it would tell them, diagnose the problem,
got it. Yeah, sure.
How long it's going to take, all this stuff. So, but we didn't have that ready the first time around, right?
No,
and so we were learning a lot of things in a growing, new, disruptive industry.
Yeah.
And, by the way, we were also experiencing outside pressures from outside entities, not dissimilar to, Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, like all of these new disruptor companies that were, not necessarily welcomed into industries with open arms.
Of course,
yeah. And so we were experiencing a lot of things at the time. It was fun, but it was a tough job.
So now, who else is doing? Who's your competition at this time?
At that time, was FanDuel. There were a couple of smaller operators. Yahoo launched the cash DFS version, but they never really. I mean, it was a two-man race pretty much from the start.
Sure.
And then shortly thereafter, a lot of the smaller operators were acquired, and it just became, what I call a cold war between DraftKings and FanDuel in terms of who's going to outspend the other, who's going to run more commercials, who's going to acquire more players. You guys know it. You saw all the commercials. I used to go to Christmas parties, and my family would be like, "Can you make it stop, please?" Like, our commercials were on every 30 seconds on every channel, right? And on every bus stop and on everywhere, right? And so so that's
and they're still doing giveaways today. Make any bet on the board, you get 56-1. I saw in somebody's thing today. Okay, let's. That's some fascinating stuff. Let's get to the advantages of sports betting online as opposed to going to the window or your traditional telephone call, gambling with money that you don't have, which we first got baptized with. Our first gamble was calling some, gorilla on the phone, and being, and talking to him, and just, a little bit above our means, a lot of bit above our means at times. Talk about the evolution of the gambling app from fantasy to straight gambling and how that's took off and some of the advantages to that for the consumer.
Yeah, so we had started to hear rumors in late or in 2017 or so, roughly, that there was a good chance efforts led by Chris Christie in New Jersey were going to lead to the federal government overturning PASPA and essentially defederalizing that law and leaving it up to the individual states to make their own decisions.
Around what year was that, Mike? Because I remember interviewing Bonnie Frank, right? Was this around the end of George Bush's presidency as the last Gulf War was ending when we were really in a bad economy? Was it close to that at all?
No, it was later than that. Later than that. I mean, efforts. I can't tell you. I can't remember exactly when efforts began because I think this took a couple of years for it to kind of come to fruition. But once it started to get close, it's like once the buzz started kind of happening around the company. We were expanding internationally at the time, and so we had decided.
And there was some banana type sites in Costa Rica and Antigua and stuff like that. I know a local guy from Westport who was a big shot at one of these places in Antigua. But I remember interviewing Bonnie Frank during that time, right? And by far the most intelligent man I've ever interviewed in my life. And I say to him, I said, alternative streams of revenue, right? I mean, you have all these half-assed online gambling sites that are in these banana republics because it's illegal in the country, but everybody's using them anyway, right? And you have, all marijuana being vilified since the age of time. All these people incarcerated. All this black market money. Why don't you look to gambling revenue, right, and marijuana revenue, if legalized, to kind of be a Band-Aid when you guys are struggling financially? And if you fast forward to today, marijuana money is building schools in Colorado. Gambling money is paying public services and first responders and and other things, all over the country. It's legal in 36 states. And today, I know it's going to pass in Massachusetts. I've had some high-level conversations with some of my father's old colleagues because it's not about a morality issue anymore. That it took a lot of sting out of that argument when Massachusetts residents, like for where I am right now, where I am. I am literally a mile and a half from the casino, right? But it's illegal here. You know what I mean? Yep. And you have that in all the North Shore with New Hampshire being so close and all of that. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, certainly, when Massachusetts. I believe the Senate passed it, and I believe the House tabled it. But I've been told it's going to be one of the first items on the agenda when they come back in. But, I mean, all those casinos that initially, as this game is evolving from fantasy into gambling, I talked to a handful of guys that were involved in them. And they said, listen, we gladly pay the tax for the security of doing it in the United States of America. So we're not getting shaken down by some Banana Republic general or if the winds of politics come, there's going to be a revolution and we're out of here. Much like what happened in Cuba. Like they wanted their work and their efforts to be safe and secure under the United States flag, and were willing to pay any price financially because it was that profitable to get it there. And I've watched the evolvement of it since that conversation with him. Okay, and looking to where it is now, I'm not very surprised.
Yeah, I'll do you one better, Mike. Massachusetts lottery is the largest revenue generating lottery in the country.
Yes, and most efficiently ran as well. So
and the marijuana tax revenue in Massachusetts just surpassed the lottery tax revenue in the last report.
That's
so
crazy.
Now the state is making more money from tax revenue on marijuana than they are on lottery. So that says a lot. So, and to your other point, how about this? Like, how about just having the security when you're using a legitimate, regulated, legalized operator in the United States that
that can be held accountable. That can be held accountable.
But you're guaranteed to receive your winnings.
Like, of course. That's what I'm talking about. So, How about that component gambling? When if you win, you're definitely going to get paid. Yeah, absolutely.
Imagine that. So,
go ahead, Mike.
So I think that there's a lot of value in that, and I think that look, when it launched in New Jersey and it was live in New Jersey, and the rest of the country got to see how much money was being generated in New Jersey, and in particular how many people were traveling from Manhattan over the state line
from Manhattan, probably from Pennsylvania, from Philadelphia. Right. All of it. So all of it.
The country has kind of come on board. COVID clearly has contributed because I think now people are looking more towards, tax revenue than ever before.
Whoever would have thought that you would see gambling commercials during an NFL game?
Yeah, you're going to see a lot on Sunday. I can tell you that right now. You're going to see a lot on Sunday. Every other commercial, I'll guarantee it.
It's fascinating. So you leave DraftKings, right?
Yep.
Now you're a consultant, right?
Yep.
And now you get a client close to home, right?
Yep.
I'm not sure if you want to mention that or not,
Yeah, no,
or
no,
what.
it's fine. It's out. I mean, it's on my LinkedIn as publicly,
All right, all right.
stated. So it's
So
still,
so now Sportsbook RI. That's how ironic enough. We bumped into one another by accident one time in the casino. And as you were going in to pitch them, and I'm not going to tell that story because we're going to leave a few of the stories uncovered. But I bumped into you that day, and we were talking about some of the issues and some of the stuff, and so they just reached out to you because of your resume with DraftKings and doing this, right?
yeah. So they had. I mean, it was kind of a little bit of the timing was a little bit serendipitous because they had some internal initiatives that they wanted to get done that they felt I could help with. But I mean, how I reached out to them, I had started my own private consultancy in the space. But they had just launched the RI Sportsbook product. It was around October of 19. And so I was just looking to get into Rhode Island and play with it and place a few wagers and see how I liked it and all this. And when I got down there, I was like, well, I can help here. Like this is there's an opportunity for me, right? And so I reached out to them and
congratulations, because since you've been on board, it's running much more smoothly, for sure.
Yeah, I can't take all the credit.
Well, no, I know, but the heightened focus of, listen, this thing has to perform at a high level because there's money on the other end of this, right? And I remember you telling me that in most states it's usually like 70-30 the app to the window, right? And at first in Rhode Island it was completely different, right? And we talked about some reasons for that, right? The old world culture of southeastern Massachusetts and Rhode Island, right? Where people are much more inclined to look somebody in the eye and hand them the money than give somebody's credit card over the thing. And we talked about this place, even though it's Massachusetts and New England, which is considered very progressive, there are some old culture issues that exist in our neck of the woods, and we wouldn't change them for anything.
Yeah.
But having the trust to put your credit card out there and to do it that way was maybe a little bit of a harder sell around Southeastern Mass and Rhode Island a little bit, you would think, right?
Yeah, change is difficult for a lot of people, right? And although we definitely experience it here, I find that I've seen it in other areas of the country as well, but more or less from the casino side, right? They a lot of the land-based casinos, at least initially, were learning on the fly. Like this was a new thing for them, digital sports wagering, right? And not having necessarily all the control of what's happening under your umbrella that you have complete control over. And a lot of casinos were a little reluctant to really dive in because they were very concerned about the foot traffic inside of the casino, right? Who's going to go to my restaurants? I don't want to disturb that traffic, right? So, but over time, so
is anybody going to come here on vacation when they can do it from their couch?
Right.
So,
so this has all been studied by now, right? And so there's a lot of data that a lot of people can look at, but the industry as a whole is more of an 80-20 split, where in general 80% of the sports wagering revenue comes from online and digital activity, and 20% comes from the retail space. It takes a while
to get there,
transition.
Right?
Yeah. You have to optimize the app, right? It's got to be working correctly. You got to work through your bugs. There has to be a marketing campaign. You got to get people on board. You got to teach people how to use it. It can be, for a lot of people, it can be intrusive, right? You got to give your date of birth, you got to give your social security number, you got, then you're putting your payment method online, right? And so a lot of people,
and you're worried about the hacker boogeyman, and you're worried about all that other stuff,
right?
But there are tremendous advantages for the gambler going online. Hey, you want to go back and forth with some of them? Let me start the process. No lines, no COVID issues. Correct. Certainly, two things that affected the brick and mortar place in brick and mortar. It's called Bally's now in Rhode Island. So that's one advantage. You don't gotta wait in line, right? You don't have to deal with the COVID nonsense. You don't have to deal with if there's health issues, whatever. I mean, you got it covered. Give me another advantage.
So, how about when the lines change, right? So you get up, you get off your couch, you get in your car, you drive to the casino, you place a wager, you get home, you find out 10 minutes before the game that Aaron Rodgers isn't vaccinated, has COVID, and he's not playing. And
of course.
That line just goes from here to here.
Yeah, of
now
course.
What are you going to do? You're going to get back in your car and go down to the casino?
No, of course.
Some people will, but the convenience of being able to adjust on the fly, hedge your bets, monitor the lines as they're happening is a huge, huge advantage. The convenience of...
Mike, you are picking my list apart like a sniper sharpshooter. No lines, convenient, last-minute line changes, injury updates until a minute. James Harden bangs out of the game, right? 5 minutes before it starts. It's a nationally televised game, I believe, against the Lakers or whatever, West Coast team. Right across the lane, James Harden not playing today. This is like at the last possible second. Right. And because I have this online component now, I can take that $200 bet and say, okay, now I'm going toward it the other way. Just let me get out of here.
Yeah.
And it saves you from an impending, $200 loss because of that convenience. I mean, it is like they say, don't ever bring a knife to a gunfight, right? Those casinos, are there and they just get bigger and bigger, right? All right, It's very difficult to win in gambling. But if you don't have that app to give you every advantage that you possibly have, right? You're not fully equipped.
Yep.
Like to almost be in the game.
You're doing yourself as disservice.
Yeah, you're doing yourself as a gambler who, listen, public shows on it. Gamble with discretionary funds, okay? Don't gamble with the mortgage. Don't gamble with the kids' tuition. Don't pop into IRAs or anything like that. So we're assuming all of that. We're assuming that this is a slush, a male or female slush fund to enjoy, to put a little sizzle and spice into your football season or March Madness or whatever it is. Okay, but if you don't have that app to be on time and updated and have access within 30 seconds. The odds are already slightly against you, but they're going to tilt in their favor more and more and more because of that, right?
Yep, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. So you're able to kind of ensure that you're wagering to the as efficiently as possible, right?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, now the industry has evolved even more so in the last... I've seen it more this NFL season than I have in seasons in the past.
Well, live betting, right? Is that where you're going with this? I did it twice last night.
Yeah,
and won both times. I saw Milwaukee come in with a purpose and a passion into Bitcoin Arena or the old Staples Center right now, and absolutely destroy an aging, tired, played out Lincoln team, and I'll tip my cap to LeBron, but he played hard, but the chemistry with them and the personnel is all the way wrong. but still you respect the Lakers and they're home and you know LeBron's going to play and you give it 4.5 or whatever it was. But 5 minutes into the game, Mike, I'm live betting.
Yeah.
Here's another $75.
Yeah.
Okay. And I said, this tidal wave for Milwaukee is real. And they're going to blow them out all game consistently and score a ton of points. And I was able to cash in on that with the live bet, because if you trust your eyes and you've been doing this for a while, or you're an athlete and you understand the power of momentum or you see the lack of energy, because all we see is numbers, right? Before the game, right? Yeah. We got all these talking heads and doing it. But once the game is on, did you watch that game at all last night with Milwaukee and LA?
I saw a little bit of it.
So the little bit you saw, you realized, wow, Milwaukee's locked in, they're focused, they've been playing one of the hottest teams in the NBA. They just beat the Clippers by 30. They're going to come here and blow the Lakers out too. I mean, it jumped off the screen at you. And again, without that app, right, you don't have that advantage.
Correct.
Okay? You know what I mean? Could I have got there? Yeah. I could have walked there, right? Rain, ice on the things, gotta take the ice off my car, gotta start it up, blah, blah, where I'm here, and then I'm just banging on it. And that's what the amazing thing about that is. From no lines to convenience, to last minute line changes, to last minute information, to your last possible injury update, from your ability to hedge bets instantaneously. Now you got the live betting, and then you got all the props.
Yep.
The props that are available on Sportsbook RI, we discussed them ad nauseum in yesterday's show, on Monday's show. You know what I mean? I love the field goal kicker from Cincinnati going over 1.5 field goals. I think Joe Burrow's going to be sacked more than 3 times, right?
Yep.
But it adds to the experience, right? Having that here.
Without question.
Yeah.
And it enhances the entertainment experience when you're watching the game, right? And so let's just say,
isn't that your mission?
Yeah.
If you're gonna encapsulate what I would see your vision is for you guys to give the online consumer the best experience possible and the most in-depth experience possible gambling with us on an app as opposed to walking to the window.
Correct. And that's why I think you're going to see, and you're already starting to see it, these digital products being integrated within the arenas so that you can do it when you're actually at the arena live watching the game. That's another way that these apps, you wouldn't be able to do that. You're inside the stadium.
Like off-track betting, but in the studio?
In the stadium, right?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of certainly if you live in a state where it's legal, a lot of times you can do it in app, but and from your digital device. But there's also a lot of activity with regards to the teams and the owners of the teams integrating it and somehow monetizing it in stadium. So, you've seen a little bit over at Gillette. They've got the DraftKings sports bar. I'm sure over time, like let's say, for example, sports wagering becomes legal in Massachusetts. What do you think What do you think that's going to look like? It's going to change, right? Right now, it's just a sports bar.
Yeah.
But that's not going to be the case over there if it's legal. People are going to be wagering all over the place. DraftKings will have stuff. And so
why not? Have you ever experienced off-track betting, which was very popular in New York when we were kids? Essentially, you would go to a place like TK O'Malley's, right? And they would have the horses and the dogs on a TV booth, on a small TV screen, in your booth.
Yeah.
And you could gamble on those horse races while you were, you and 3 of your buddies were going out for drinks, Right. And I think that's what you're going to see there. I mean, Massachusetts, like you said, they got the most successful, biggest lottery in the country. And if they make this leap, they're going to go in head first, okay? They're going to go in the deep end. And, like, I think in 10 to 15 years from now, I think you'll have one of those kiosks sitting in a Cumberland Farms, like you do in Las Vegas.
If you go anywhere in Europe where they're about, especially in London, England, some of the older places, Australia is another country where, they're 10 to 15 years ahead of us in terms of they've been wagering on sports. They've got the advertising all over the soccer uniforms and the football uniforms. They're on all the gambling is everywhere, right? You walk the streets of London, and there are little Kubotas that you can walk into that look like little Dunkin' Donuts, and they're on every corner. So you can place a wager anywhere, right? And so it's just a more they have a more they've just been at this longer, so it's a little bit more tenured over there. It'll happen here. I think by the time. I'd be surprised in 10 to 15 years from now if there's still a single state in the United States that doesn't have sports wagering.
No, I mean, because I don't think at the end of the day they're going to be able to say no to the tax revenue, So at the end of the day, most things come to it because of money, and certainly this is going to to be a cash windfall for states who are going to need it as the economy ebbs and flows. That's the word I use with Bonnie. I forget what it is now, but cash streams, like the cash streams from the marijuana and gambling. Hopefully will cushion the fall during the bad economy that many states have rolled with and experienced over the last 30 or 40 years. Certainly. Mike, is there a goal for you with the Rhode Island Sportsbook? I mean, you guys are the only game in town, right? You guys are the only game in town. Is there like something that you guys want to be? I mean, I don't want to give me any type of insider secrets, but where are you guys at as in your development process now? Nobody's already there, but where would you say you guys are as far as the app and the product and with the change into Bally's and all that other stuff?
Yeah, they've been a very, very aggressive company. In 2021 in particular, they acquired a bunch of different properties. They acquired a very large sports channel network, I think from Entercom, right? The Bally Sports Network all over the country now, which they're going to use to drive traffic to their app. I mean, look, I just think that in terms of what's happening in Rhode Island, it's still I would consider a work in progress. They've come a long way with the quality of the app.
Certainly. Sure, yeah, they certainly have. Yeah,
more sports. It's operating more efficiently. And so they've come a long way, but I still think that there's an opportunity on both ends, not only for them to improve the experience, but to also I think there's still an opportunity for them to add users to their liquidity pool. So
and ultimately, that's what it's all about, is getting the users, right?
Right.
Now, some places in this country might not be hip to an international soccer wager, right? Where we grew up, when Portugal won a big game, it was like a carnival in our Portuguese neighborhoods that we'll never forget. It's part of the culture and part of the treasure of growing up the way we did. Is there a focus to, okay, we got to improve our soccer package, or we got to improve our cricket package, or we got to do this. We got to spend some time with this more, or or develop more props, or whatever it is. I mean, do you guys strategize like that? I know you're on the security end of it, but
I think every operator does that. In fact, every operator should be doing that. Always, the goal of any operator, whether it's DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, BetMGM, Bally's, or whoever, they should always be looking to add additional sports, add additional experiences, add things like live in-game wagering, and improving the experience. And generally, in about a week here, that's when this work is already starting to come to. The concept is already there. The work is going to start. There's 2 seasons in this world. It's football season and football off season, and so that work generally starts shortly after the Super Bowl, with the intention of having most, if not all of it, done by the end of July, early August, and therefore, like, whatever's left, you're just cleaning up as you're getting ready to. Because as soon as even though the football season doesn't officially, week 1 isn't until like Labor Day, as soon as you post those lines in August 1st or whatever it is, that's when the activity starts to ramp up. So you got to be ready several weeks prior, and so that work starts now. And there's not a single operator in the United States that won't be the case
now. All right, so it's a football world. We all know that. What's second? Is it March Madness? Is it World Cup soccer? Is it baseball? It's the NBA.
Yeah, the NBA is clear cut number 2.
Good.
MLB, Major League Baseball number 3, but kind of distant. But NFL is king. Like, it's not even close. Frankly, they are. They kind of run the show. Yep.
Yeah, I hear you, Michael. This has been a fascinating conversation. We'd like to have you on again. Maybe in a month. But again, talking about the convenience of the apps. And one thing that I learned today: you don't have to live in Rhode Island to get the app, right?
Yeah, you can download any of these apps.
So just as long as you're in Rhode Island, you can play. Is that correct?
Yeah,
correct.
You can download an app from any of the operators from any place that you are. As far as participating, you'd have to be in an area where it's you have to be physically located in an area where it's legal to participate.
And online gambling.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's something that not other people know about it too. But we told you about the no lines. We told you about the convenience. We talked about the last minute information made available. We told you about hedging your bet and protecting yourself. We talked about being able to get out of a bet due to an injury. We talked about the prop bets. We talked about all of it. It's at the tips of your hands, and your money is safe. Since the guys like my man in front of me, Michael, it has been an absolute pleasure. Continue to do the good work. I'm only a couple miles down the road. Hopefully we'll reconnect again by accident at Mesa 21. And we'll get to it. But hey, by the way, tell your brothers, my favorite brothers in all of Fall River, tell them we will be live at the Super Bowl. Live at Mesa 21 from 3:30 to 5:30 before the Super Bowl. So it's a free fuel that I'm not sure if you got big plans or anything like that, but you're always welcome where I am. Michael Robleski, thank you so much, brother.
You got it. My pleasure.
You got it. This is the Hurricane signing out from BADCATZ, the Route 6 Auto Mall Kia Studios at Podcast City. This is a special edition of BADCATZ Sports. I want to thank my man Jeff for coming in during his one of his days off to come in here to do that. I want to thank my man Mike Robleski. We got a new addition to the team, Evan Martinez. He's in the back setting his office up. We just upgrade. We got a serious social media influencer we just put on board. So we're coming and we're ready. Michael, I'll say like Mike, quick pick. Super Bowl. Who do you like?
Still undecided. I can't get past this simple number. The Bengals have the number 30th ranked offensive line in the NFL and give up a ton of sacks, as we know. Burrow got sacked 9 times in the divisional playoff game. the Rams have the number one defensive line in the NFL.
Sure.
So I know Cincinnati.
Don't underestimate that Bengals coaching staff to make adjustments, because they did it in Kansas City and they had Pat Mahomes talking to himself. Yeah, I think that coaching staff is very much under the radar.
And they got a stone cold killer at quarterback. That Burrow, my friend. He's a killer.
Yeah, he certainly is. Any prop bets you like, Mike?
I haven't really looked at him closely yet, Mike, to be all honest with you. I'll start to dig into that probably tomorrow and Friday and have everything wrapped up by Saturday.
That's right. For guys like me and Mike, Super Bowl's a holiday. Don't forget, BADCATZ Sports, 3:30 to 5:30 at Mason 21. Want to thank Mike for coming on, and we're saying goodbye from Route 6 Auto Mall Kia Studios at Podcast City. Check us out tomorrow night. We'll be live at 6, and we'll be at the Golden Gloves. I'm rooting on our young man Mikey Goodrow on Saturday. I'll be at ringside. Come holler at me. Peace. BADCATZ. We're out. Thank you, Michael.